to express his greetings as he sees fit, and then share with us whatever he can. But I want to say that we know the relationship that we have. Their heart is in the right place. They're doing what they can, and I know sometimes it takes time. So I want to really appreciate that. So, sir, it's our pleasure and honor to have you join us. Acting Mayor Pedro Calendino. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay, for those very kind words, and I concur with you that we have been collaborating for about 20 years with the Chetna Society and with the temples in Burnaby, and I wasn't aware that you had your offices in Burnaby, but I'm pleased to hear that. I just want to give a welcome to the great-nephew of Dr. Ambedkar. It's really an honor to have you here speaking to us and elucidating us on some of the work that your ancestor did for the benefit of society. As mentioned, I am Councilor Pietro Calendino, and for today I am the acting mayor because Mayor Hurley, who would have been here, is engaged in mayoral duties with other Lower Mainland mayors in Ottawa, hoping probably to get the government in Ottawa to provide some more funding for all the needs we have in this part of the world. So I will bring you greetings from obviously the mayor and from the rest of council, and as it's mentioned by Jay, we had Councilor Richard Lee here, but he needed to go to another meeting which was starting at 2 o'clock, so he will be a little late. Before I go any further, in the spirit of reconciliation, I too would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, Squamish, and Kwakwatling people. And I'd like to extend appreciation for the opportunity to hold such events on their territory. And as I said, we're really very, very happy to be collaborating with the Society on this Day of Equality in honor of Dr. Ambedkar. You know, not being of Indian origin, I have to confess that up to 20 years ago, I didn't know very much about Dr. Ambedkar. I had learned of India, and I had heard about President Nehru and a few other very famous leaders of the past, but I learned about Dr. Ambedkar from, you may be aware of, Councillor Sav Dhaliwal, who obviously demanded that we have a proclamation in his honor every year at City Hall. And in fact, on the first proclamation, we had a portrait of Dr. Ambedkar put on the walls of our council boardroom where we do meet in enclosed session. So we have that in the wall, and every time we go into that room, we are reminded of the greatness and the accomplishments of Dr. Ambedkar towards the delivery of a just society. And as Jay has mentioned just a couple of weeks ago, Councillor Dhaliwal has brought up the issue of the caste system. And he has asked the council that we put the elimination of caste, even in Burnaby, as one of our values in general, along with inclusivity, with diversity, with equality, etc. So that's one of the things that we'll be introducing in everything the city does as policy. Now, so much has already been said about Dr. Ambedkar, but what I will add probably will be redundant, but I will say a few things anyway. Obviously, he was one of the greatest figures and leaders of Indian history, and we've heard that. What he accomplished was really incredible and unique because he was born in a Dalit family at the time when the untouchables were not permitted to even think of improving their status. I've read about his experiences in school, and we heard that he was not able to go to the board to write anything or even walk into the classroom. But what I read is also that he was not permitted to drink clean water from the jugs that the upper castes were using. And to that, when he became a politician, he introduced legislation that the quatas should be available for all the lower castes as well. So, it takes a person with courage and with determination to push principles like that in a society where you do not have any rights. So obviously what he has done is tremendous, and it's a benefit not just to Indian society, but all of society around the world if we stop and think that we are all human beings. We are all equal. We should not have differences in our society. We are in a democratic society in Canada, which has developed somewhat different from the Indian society, but hopefully the Indian society will manage to arrive at the same stage that Canada is. It's been said about his studies, and I have to admit that he was a driven individual who, against all odds, he managed to complete a master's and a PhD degree at the University of London and at Columbia University through a scholarship. He became a highly respected jurist, economist, social reformer, and political leader, and served as Law and Justice Minister in the Nehru cabinet, a position at the time unattainable from anyone from the lower castes. As an elected official, he became head of the committee, as we heard, that drafted the India Constitution, and some of the changes that have taken place in India since then, it's because of the articles that he introduced in the Constitution. All his life, Dr. Ambedkar worked hard to eradicate the practice of caste discrimination, yet he had to suffer that himself all throughout his years in school, and even in the jobs that he held, including the job in government. He dedicated all his life to the betterment of the Dalits and other lower castes of Indian society. He fought fearlessly against all forms of oppression and pushed the Indian society of the time into a path of progress and inclusivity, diversity, and equality, the very concept that we very much cherish today. Dr. Ambedkar was very determined to promote education for the Dalit class, and he even started a movement to open up drinking water sources for the Dalit and the other untouchable classes. As a very learned person, Dr. Ambedkar published several books on different subjects. He is known to have been an avid reader and to have collected the largest library in India with about 50,000 volumes, and it is rumored that he probably read all of them. I will conclude by wishing the Society great success in the symposium and in their future endeavors. And you see it on the screen. Before I declare that Dr. Ambedkar was an extraordinary man whose vision was a just society for all, I will read the proclamation that you probably cannot see that, which is the reason why I'm here. The city of Burnaby, from the Office of the Mayor, the proclamation, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Day of Equality. Whereas Canada is a multicultural society that promotes freedom and equality, and whereas concerns about equality and inequity continue to be experienced globally, and efforts to eradicate inequalities need to be supported and strengthened, and whereas Dr. Ambedkar, born in India on April 14, 1891, in a community of Dalits, previously known as untouchables, rose through the ranks and chaired the drafting committee of the Constituent Assembly to make and enact the new Constitution of India. And whereas the Constitution of India, enacted in 1950, stipulates the lofty ideals of equality, liberty, and fraternity, and whereas the dedicated efforts and vision of Dr. Ambedkar to bring about a just society and economic order deserve to be celebrated in India and around the world. Now, therefore, I, Mike Hurley, Mayor of Burnaby, do hereby proclaim April 14 as Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Day of Equality in the city of Burnaby. Thank you very much, and besides being honored to be here, I'm very pleased to have learned a little more about Dr. Ambedkar, especially from his great-great-grandson and from the Consul General. Thank you.